Hey guys, I didn't like the way that sounded. I literally feel like a YouTuber doing this. But um, this video we're going to talk about week 8, which is the start of acids and bases. Honestly, this is a very complex topic. The 5th graders are lucky that they're introduced to this because it was something that I wasn't introduced to, kind of building off the chemistry stuff, but the next 2 weeks are going to be talking about acids. So you can talk about how a good segue into this week is to talk about the previous week and be like, vinegar, would you guess that it's super acidic or super basic? A lot of them know that it's acidic. You can go into the properties and the characteristics of acids versus bases, but start with that. Baking soda is very basic and vinegar is very acidic. That's why it made the reaction that it did and was able to blow up the balloon. Bring up those topics. It really helps to start one week with the previous week's material. Really helps. Once again, that's why they're in this order. It's for a reason, so make sure you're honing in on that and using it to your advantage. So this week you're going to be using pH paper and pH indicator. Honestly, pH is something that I still do not understand. They're going to have a lot of questions about it. It's kind of confusing to describe because the pH paper looks like torn pieces of construction paper to them. The most important idea is the color scale, so you know that blue is very basic and red is very acidic. So it helps to have, basically they're going to have a couple different substances that they're going to have in little cups, and then the way I would do it was project the scale on the projector. Given the technology in your class, you might have to improvise, but it helps to have a scale up, and then because you only have one tube of the pH paper and there's a scale on there, but they're not going to all be able to see it at once. So make sure you have like a general thing that they can all access. And then they're going to be using the pH paper to record if each substance is acidic or basic. And then they're going to also use the indicator to determine if it's acid or acid or basic. Well, acidic or basic. It's pretty much the same thing, but it's interesting to see the two different types to investigate. And then you can talk about how green is neutral for water. No real tips on this one. It's pretty straightforward other than being able to describe the pH scale in the pH paper. And then the numbers get involved too. I guess a pH, of 7 or less is acidic, and then 7 and greater is basic. You can talk about that if you want. That's on some of the scales that you're going to be able to find. It honestly depends on how much detail you want to go into it. Because once again, this is kind of jumping back to the atmosphere one. When there's too many variables, my kids had a really hard time understanding. So when you say 3 to 5 or whatever it is, 3 to 6, weak acid is going to be yellow. They get it's just a lot to keep track of. So make sure you're going at a pace that they understand. This is week 8, so you know how your kids operate in their best, how they learn the best. So make sure you have that audible and the visual learning for both of them. You can even do an example and be like, okay, this is blue, that means it's basic. Make sure you're catering your lessons to your classrooms at this point, because everyone has a different environment that they're putting themselves into, and at this point you should know, and it's a lesson that definitely needs to be catered. So just make sure you are doing it what's best for your class.